Greetings, friends. Welcome to our group circle for the meditation for the common good. We meet today on the last day of the 5 days period of the Pisces Festival to meditate and reflect together on the topic that was selected for the Pisces cycle: right relationships as a reflection of high harmonies. Our work follows the rhythm of 4 beats of the moon calendar. And as we are now going through the phase of the full moon, we come together to align with the hierarchy, invoking the vision of the unfolding plan, and asking for the hierarchical guidance in our recognition and expression of the part of the plan that is related to our work. As always, we begin our meeting with sounding this statement of purpose. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Alexander, and thank you everyone for being here today. Our purpose as we meditate for the common good, invoke and evoking energies, our purpose is to magnetize the ideas of common good, freedom, and brotherhood as the highest values of humanity at this time. We recognize and cherish diversity of perspectives in our group, creating a space capable of invoking, receiving, interpreting, and radiating a higher synthetic vision. We serve as an ashramic outpost, building a group bridge of Buddhic energy. We evoke the soul of humanity. We envision humanity as being a seed that is flowering. And we prepare the way for the reappearance of the coming one. As always, we will begin our full moon meditation group gathering today by reviewing the seed thoughts that came from our first quarter moon meeting through a meditation. And with these seed thoughts is how our topic for the cycle of Pisces this month was created. So from these seed thoughts, our topic, right relationships as an expression of higher harmonies, came about. I'll now read the 8 seed thoughts that came from our first quarter moon meeting. Number 1, harmlessness at the midpoint of the observer. Number 2, right relationships begin by being the observer and allowing the silent watcher. Number 3, group creates a shared space of dynamic balance, looking upward, moving forward. Number 4, tolerance and understanding of differences. Number 5, abstaining from criticism lets us see the goodness in each other. Number 6, devas and elementals are activated by sound. Number 7, right relationships are an expression of the higher harmonies. And number 8, and our final seed thought from the meeting. How do we cooperatively and collectively lift our minds to embody detachment as the sacrifice of our individual interests in certain outcomes of the current struggles of humanity in so many places around the world, and open to the plan that will unfold in the Aquarian age that we are entering? And now we will continue this cycle and this meeting by going into our meditation. And Alexander has offered to focalize it for Pisces. So over to you, Alexander. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. So let us prepare for the meditation. Align with the soul. Project your light through your vehicles. Expanding the light of your mind and love of your heart, linking with group members. We connect across space, coming together around the group flame, group heart. We recognize the light and love of our group heart as a point of light within the planetary network of light. Aligning with myriads of other points of light, groups and individuals, forming together the World Servers Group, one planetary server. Recognizing our planetary presence as a big group, we bring our focus back into our group heart. And from here, we start our work. Visualize and therefore build the group rainbow bridge towards the spiritual hierarchy of the planet. Through an act of group will, we raise our group vibration, elevating and taking our stand on the periphery of the great ashram of Sanat Kumara, the planetary hierarchy. We recognize and align with the heart of the hierarchy, the Christ. Together with the elders in the ashram, we orient towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. Standing on the periphery of the ashram, we acknowledge the presence of humanity as a great planetary center. We visualize the great planetary triangle formed by humanity, hierarchy, and Shambhala. Visualize the energy circulating between each of the centers in both directions, coming in harmonious balance. From our position on the periphery of the ashram, we open our group perception to the energies emanating from the sign of Pisces, coming to Earth via its rulers Jupiter and Pluto, and Neptune as an overall ruler. We focus on our group chalice, the topic right relationships as an expression of higher harmonies. Right relationships as an expression of higher harmonies. We invoke the vision of the divine plan, asking for the hierarchical guidance in our group understanding of right relationships as an expression of high harmonies. We ask the hierarchy to guide our group understanding in reflecting on the following questions. The keynote of the incoming seventh ray is let the higher and the lower meet, and spirit irradiates the form. Major religions call us to be in the world, but not of this world. How do we manifest this call in everyday life? How can we manifest the call to be in the world, but not of this world in everyday life? Another question we ask the hierarchy to help us to recognize. Standing as souls incarnated, linking the heavens and the earth, how do we manifest right relationship to physical death? How do we manifest and express right relationship to physical death? And another question we bring to the hierarchy. In this time of transition between the ages, everyday news feeds are full with stories of not right relationship between the nations. What does it teach us about what the right relations in international affairs should be? what the right relationship in international affairs should be. What is the vision, the plan? We hold the group mind open and receptive. Allowing impressions to find an adequate form of expression. preparing to share them in the circle. Right relationships as an expression of high harmonies. We are refocusing now again around the group heart, group flame. Holding the vertical alignment and connection with our elders in the hierarchy. We are now preparing to open our circle for sharing.
I can begin. In each of those questions, what came to me first and foremost was fear. It was in that first question, that fear of the demonstration of personality that is so often what we see first. And we don't remember to look a little deeper and recognize that there's a soul behind that personality, and that personality just is on the path of coming to understand that soul, and to be able to hear that soul, and to be able to become that soul and be infused by that soul. So looking at that person as a soul, and not necessarily accepting the behavior that is being brought through from a personality. But more importantly, the second and the third really, to me, were fear. That second question is a little near and dear to my heart because I lost someone very close to me at a very early age, and it really took me into a spin. And in that process, I was able to step out and forward and follow a quest to understand death, and went into nursing and became a pediatric nurse and worked in hospice. Had the opportunity to stand beside and work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who recognized that so much of death was shrouded with fear because we had taken death and put it behind closed doors. And where death used to be something that in culture happened in homes and within families and in loving and very close close situations, it was suddenly hidden. And as a result, the fear was brought into it, the fear of the unknown. And I've had such an extraordinary opportunity to sit at the deathbed of many, many people, and to, in my own curiosity, examine life after life through near-death experiences and the incredible works of Raymond Moody and so many more now that have really brought death and dying into the light. And it really reveals that it is not the end. And we as spiritual seekers, and we know this, and we've had this reinforced in the teachings that we have been given by the Tibetan master, in that we understand that life is a series of chapters in a very, very, very long book. And when one really comes to know that, the fear leaves. It just leaves, and it brings the opportunity to see every moment of every day of your life in an extraordinary way, with joy and gratitude. And it doesn't mean there isn't pain and suffering, but it brings a different light into that. And then when you look at the international relationships, it's again fear. It's that fear of scarcity. It's that fear that someone will do something to you, so you better do something to them first. It is that fear that someone knows more or will use that against the other. It is so extraordinary to watch, and we are inundated by a media that gets a lot of viewership because it promotes fear as well. I often think that if you could just take 6 months and insist that every single thing on the television was an expression of love, and it wouldn't be so hard. There are a lot of stories of heroism and extraordinary loving examples. But the mindset of humanity would be so changed if they were receiving love-based instead of fear-based information. So fear, it is such a part of right relationship and such a stick in the side of right relationship, because it prevents the love that is so easy to find in another person if you look for it.
Yeah, I will continue on from what Andrea said because it's so true. And what came to me while she was speaking was the dying of the Piscean age, because the Piscean age was about fear and belief, and it wasn't about knowledge or brotherly love or just love in general, but knowledge came through pretty big on that because um for question 3, as she was saying with the media and everything, and they install the fear, I think people are waking up because things are becoming more transparent. So what's going to change things from the fear mode to truths, transparency? I think not everybody is going to wake up to that, but I think if a majority of the population is where it's starting to wake up to the fact that give me the facts, let me know, not let me believe anymore, or, the installation of fear. That's so Piscean. Um, and so that came to me. So thank you, Andrea, for saying what you said. Um, I think also, the dying of the physical, that physical death, I think again comes from, like Andrea said, fear. But again, now coming into this in the end, we're not coming to it. We are in the Aquarian age. So knowledge is gold. And knowledge is going to show everyone that there's more to us than the physical body. And from that, we can start to operate from our Buddhic level or heart, our mental capacity or mental level from the mind, as opposed to just focusing on that lower physical. And I think just by doing that, um, it's not going to happen right away, but I believe in this Aquarian age, a lot of that is coming from dissolving the physical or transmuting that physical death to higher vibrations. Um, and so, we will basically, hopefully by the end of the Aquarian age, we will be bringing heaven to earth. In other words, we're going to be, as they said, we aren't from this world, but we're on this world living, and that's what will happen because we'll bring our higher selves because we're multidimensional, and we'll be living on a physical plane, but not we'll be in the physical plane, but we'll be living at higher dimensions of that of ourselves. I don't know if I said that right, but from Buddha, from the intuitional level and that type of thing. And I think too, for number three question, what does it teach us? What are we learning from these so negative news feeds and stories and showing us not right relationships? It's showing the turmoil and chaos and all that. Well, it's showing us that we're actually seeing what we don't want. What where we don't want to come from. Um, and it shows us and brings out the imperfections, which are becoming again transparent, and we're starting to see truths. Once we get the truths through transparency, then hopefully we can make our own decisions and move up, move our vibrations up. So, thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. And I have a slightly, let's not call it different, but a differentiated response to the questions. I think, first of all, I'd like for everyone to just take a breath. And on the in breath, we're breathing in the life of this planetary being, the life that is in every breath. And then we are, on the out breath, releasing. And I think one of the challenges for all of us is to recognize that the physical nature is, in effect, dying every day. And that is part of a natural cycle. When we draw attention to death, it's usually because of a sudden loss or the loss of a life that we saw hope in, as with children. And yet, it is denial of what we know to be true, which is the physical nature is the great illusion. And what can we do to help us all better understand that a focus on that great illusion is feeding these glamours that humanity has embraced, the ancient glamour of fear, the glamours that we see realized in all of these, very derogatory, negative reports. Anything that we read tends to have some tinge of glamour in it and the absence of what we know to be those qualities of the soul. So for myself, it is to each day and on waking and on closing the day to ask myself, what have I accomplished today in living in what I call oneness, to challenge myself to extend beyond anything that I know or think I know, to reach out on some level to try to understand some place that is experiencing the physical death, and to affirm in that, whether it's a community or a nation, to confirm the life that is there, because that life is beyond the physical. And for myself, I find great experience early in the day. I participate as much as I can in the vigil for Ukraine, because that place has experienced so much of the physical side, and yet the etheric and higher is so present. And being reminded of that and focusing on that higher etheric and soul purpose of those who have lived and died and those who are yet to be born in that part of the world. And I've applied it to other parts of the world where these great, what you might call travesties of destruction are occurring. And it not only gives me hope, but it does allow me to move far beyond the fear in a way and reach to that higher point. And maybe it's easier because I'm much older than many of you. And I'm approaching that point where I will be leaving the physical plane. And I want to be part of this one, that, and have an awareness of that one before I exit the physical body. And this practice that we have of entering into a higher sense of oneness through our group work and through the meditations is what gives me hope. And this, what I call confirmation of right relationship in every single one of those experiences with groups that are meeting on many levels. And I just had a brief meeting today with a couple of people where one of them was really just so distressed about what is happening on the physical plane in the world. And to be able to have that person identify that their emotion is anger, and then talk about the underlying fear, and then move to that point of what can be brought into a conversation, what can be brought into our relationships, expressing compassion, expressing love, as Andrea said, expressing deep sympathy, all those qualities of the soul that we are given. And on the higher level, I was thinking about what Master Moria says about trust, that is the mine of patience. And how do we force patience? And I don't want to say force in that way, but use patience as a force to shift the etheric body of the planet toward right relationships in every moment, which requires us to think in different ways, to accent different points in our lives, and to, detach in so many ways that, I myself, I'm just becoming aware of what I have to detach from, that law of abstraction. So that's my response actually to all of the questions. This physical death is part of the great illusion, and we are overcoming it. And I think we overcome it through our work together.
Hearing you speak of fear, I'm not sure that, well, fear didn't come into me. I had sort of happiness because of the potential of what could be, and that what just came first was God's request to us is to love one another as I have loved you. So I thought, well, that might sort of be a starting point. And Judy's fine reminders to all of us and to me, I didn't know that much about them before I heard from Judy. The UN's goals, the 17 sustainable goals, is sort of a start because it helps with basic needs. And we need a government that is honest, fair, working for the good of all. And when some of these things can happen, is the spirit not irradiated then? These are ways it could manifest around the world to everybody. We have to listen and try to understand to each other. And right relationship as an expression of higher harmonies. I mean, we have to be pragmatic. We have to walk it out into the world tomorrow, sort of thing, this afternoon, this evening. And how we do that is by the functional and helping people, giving them food, shelter, hope, decent government, try to have their land as healthy as it can be to produce food. I don't know. That's sort of in a nutshell, but what I was thinking. Thank you all.
Hello everyone, thanks for all the lovely comments. Mine, as usual, are in a list form. And for one, and I expect I shall be repeating what people have said, in one I put that in everyday life we should remember and listen to the soul and observe it rather than focus on our personality, which is quite different to do if you're having a hectic day, but that's how we overcome the problems, by trying to do things like that. And on two, I've put, we should see physical death as a new beginning and an opportunity to move onward spiritually. And if we acknowledge reincarnation, that's a great help, because reincarnation is the same as hope, I think. And three, have respect for different views. Interactions should be soul-led, not personality-led. And with things that are going on in the world today, we should become aware that armed conflict should no longer be considered as an option for a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I might just add that it seems to me that people are fearful and often don't know where to turn for answers. But truly, at this time, I think there are many people seeking answers where our meditative silence and our demonstration in our lives can help. When people really do have questions, maybe sometimes we can guide them to some of the things we've discovered as a group, some of our sources. I think that what has helped me as far as dealing with death is sensing continuity more and more as more meditation is done. And this can be shared with people too. As you meditate more, you sense more continuity, and you learn that the work we do and the level we're working, and even as more as personalities, our work spans a great deal of time. And that causes us to set better priorities. It gives us better perspective on everything. And I think right now we're as we are in the midst of Pisces, it's interesting to be having this discussion about endings and death and so forth. And it seems that it's interesting to me that it's always been something I've had to think about, that Pisces has a lot to do with will, that there's a quality of will in there when the whole energy seems to be becoming so selfless, as the Piscean age, and mounting the cross for others and so forth. But then at a point I realized we're just seeing the transformation from personal will to divine will, to where we're one with the plan. And so there's will in that sense, I guess. And we can probably fall back on that will to help us in everything we do when we're in our, working more in our higher selves and our soul selves. And as far as question 3, I think everybody's added so many wonderful ideas. What I thought of was just when humanity is able to see the world from a whole world perspective. I know that's simplistic, but when we really automatically see ourselves as part of the world, which we learn to do as we progress spiritually, then we're problem solving all as one. It's just a matter of problem solving. And it's just a different perspective. We see such a heavy personality influence right now, as someone said earlier, in so many of the decisions that are made, and most of the decisions made by countries, it seems often, at least the countries that are pushing power. When we are seeing everything from a whole perspective and a higher perspective, of course, that's going to change. When it's more soul influence instead of personality influence. I think that's about all the notes I had. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. Really good questions. A lot to be said on each one of them. But the right human relationship and being in this world and not of it. The main, I think, quality that is developing is responsibility, because those are the qualities of the higher harmony, ability to respond. And it's the same in us. And again, responsibility also the quality of the soul, the understanding of the pattern that your actions create, and taking responsibility for it. And balancing what is actually, I think, perceived better now seemingly better because the personal interests of people in the countries are better realized, but at the same time I see it as a cloud because the vision is lacking. There's very little true understanding of how things can move along, and very often I find that people who are moved by their soul, being generous, or people or moments of generosity and high road perceived by the others as weakness. Don't, I think it's from the movie. Do not mistake my kindness for a weakness. And I see that as a very often mistake. So correcting that mistake, recognizing kindness, recognizing higher um, calling, or moments when the responsibility is, taken. It is important, really important. And for that, I think etheric plays an enormous role. It plays an enormous role in us being able to discriminate is not the very right word, to distinguish between living and didn't. And sometimes when pursuing interests, if it's deadening and their life is becoming more scarce, livingness is becoming more scarce, then one realizes that the wrong path. Sometimes we do that with our bodies. We use them, and then the livingness starts growing rarer. And then, we realize, oh, we're doing something wrong. Or we don't, and we kind of, persist and deadening some part of our living. And yes, fear, I believe, plays an enormous role in that. But love plays greater role. But the fear is, I believe, in Tibetan, and he says that it's inherent part of our matter. It's one of the weaknesses, of our matter on the planet. So love can transform that, and slowly is transforming, but it is a big process. And this understanding of living beyond the manifested form is a big goal. And I believe that we're touching that as humanity, we're touching as disciples, as servers, or as fellow human beings, we're touching upon that through crises in our life. And it's just really, it's about. And it's interesting to me that, Joe, you mentioned, Ukraine and in this thought about etheric. Ukraine is one of the, to me, is one of the amazing qualities of this country, is this livingness in the space, the etheric vitality, full vitality. We have this, saying that you can, like, about the soil of Ukraine, that you can put a stick into it and it will grow. And it is true. But I think behind that fertility is this livingness. And it is the point of very serious attention. meaning that okay, I'm not going to go there. But the thing is, really, the raising the dead body of humanity, as Tibetan says, is one of the major goals. Bringing this etheric into a flowing, receiving, and distributing point, that is a goal. And that is the right, relationship. It's the exchange of energy. It's the flow that's being allowed on all levels, because etheric, again, we have the sub-etheric plane of each plane. And this vitality is essential, especially now, I believe. And it's going to be strengthened by Neptune and Saturn coming again into this point of distribution of vitality, of divine vitality. So we can align. And but we need to work a lot as humanity, as disciples. We need to work a lot, I believe, and love a lot, and love each other a lot, despite or before, well, without any really, just as a prerequisite, without any causation. Thank you. Over.
Your friends for sharing and holding that tension to express impressions that we receive together. Please let us continue holding this focus. Our work is to be open to impressions and express them to the mental field of humanity, forming and magnetizing and radiating thought forms that would help us all collectively to move forward. Time flies fast, and we're now already at the end, and I recognize there are more for us to share. As always, the Community Impressions Board is our tool that helps us to share between the meetings. We will meet again for our quarter moon meeting next Tuesday, March 10th at 2:30 Eastern Time, which will be 6:30 afternoon Universal Time. I just bring your attention, for those of you in Europe, that this weekend there will be daylight saving time beginning in the United States, and therefore for you, starting from the next week, all our programs, including the meditation for common good, will be at a different time. Now I know it's a bit lost if it's earlier or later, but will be 6:30 Universal Time, GMT. So let us close our work today, and I invite, if anyone would like to sound the mantra of your choice, to close our work today, tonight.
I would like to close with the mantra of the new group of world servers. As we breathe into the etheric presence of each one, contributing to our highest and best. And we invoke the power of hierarchy to elevate our consciousness and our thoughts to align with the plan and bring the power, love, and intelligence into and through the new group of world servers. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. Oh.